I've seen people up here at Lowell Observatory start crying because they've lived in big cities all their lives and they've never seen the Milky Way. And yet here, right in the middle of our campus, which is less than a mile from downtown Flagstaff, you can see the Milky Way. And then, so it's important for astronomers, it's important just as humans to, get connected with the universe around us.
When was the last time you looked up at the night sky and saw the stars? Did you see them in all their brilliance? Could you see the Milky Way or any constellations? Did it bring a sense of calm, grounding, or awe? A space for reflection and inspiration? Our ancestors relied on the relationship with stars to find their way, to understand their surroundings, and to explain how their cultures came to be. But as time goes on, this relationship is being lost at an increasingly alarming rate, and some might say that it has already disappeared because of
light. It's everywhere around us. The rays of the sun, the flip of a switch, the push of a button, a timer, a sensor. The advent of artificial light 200 years ago enabled us to defy the boundaries imposed upon us by nature. From the first methods of candles and oils, we now use electricity to light the night. Our schedules are no longer dictated by the rise and fall of the sun, and we can extend working hours into the evening. Nightlife thrives, and cities are celebrated for illuminated skylines, which never sleep. Screens allow us to find entertainment while relaxing and socializing, and appropriate artificial lighting contributes to safety in spaces at night, lighting the road, pedestrians, and surroundings.
Yet, we've come to associate darkness with fear and now recognize this constantly illuminated environment as a standard. Artificial light and light pollution are everywhere, and we can't escape it.
Paul Lynham, an astronomer at the University of California Lick Observatory, warns us, increasing light pollution is eroding opportunities for us to contemplate the inspirational beauty of a starry night sky. Tragically, 80% of children born in the Western world today will never know a night dark enough that they can see the Milky Way. For many city dwellers, this right may never be reclaimed. This loss of the night sky is not an individual choice. Even if we take care of our immediate surroundings, artificial light still trespasses from neighboring areas. This is the plight of the University of Utah's South Physics Observatory, which grapples with light pollution each hour the sun is down.
We've had the current observatory on campus since about 1976, I believe. There have been others leading back probably into the 20s, but we've had this one since then.
The current South Physics Observatory has since undergone a few renovations to be equipped with various telescopes, cameras, and other tools to help view the night sky. Yet, despite these high-quality instruments, the observatory can't conduct research.
This location is strictly used for public outreach and education, correct? It's not used at all for scientific research?
Correct, just public outreach mostly and some classes.
And why don't you do scientific research here?
There's a few reasons, primarily one being there's too much light pollution, so a lot of observations these days require darker skies than we have in order to get proper measurements for things and be able to see them.
Because of this artificially illuminated sky, the observatory is instead used as a classroom lab for university students, as well as a public outreach center which hosts regular star parties and tours for thousands in the community each year. Even still, the quality of these experiences is hindered by the invasion of artificial light, which has steadily occurred over time.
How long have you worked here?
Worked here since 2005.
Are there any physical changes you have noticed on campus that have affected the observatory at all?
Yeah, the campus and city keep getting brighter lights. Despite them being somewhat proper lighting, like LEDs and full cutoff fixtures, they're also being overly bright, overly blue, and just too many of them.
For the observatory, there is one nearby culprit which especially interferes with their work.
Located just 100 meters from the observatory is the Northwest Parking Garage. Erected in the summer of 2015, it provides about 300 additional parking spaces for commuting faculty, staff, and students, as well as for visitors attending evening performances at nearby venues.
The Northwest Parking Garage emanates excessive amounts of light, which easily reach the roof of the observatory. Shoebox LED lights and fluorescent strip light fixtures are placed throughout the garage in close proximity groupings, a phenomenon known as light clutter. Moreover, the street lamps lining the property emit light in many directions. This excess of only partially shielded lighting causes glare and visual impairment to both pedestrians and drivers. These numerous clustered lights in the garage remain on during the daytime, and this wasteful energy practice generally goes unnoticed because of the light from the sun. However, even as the sun goes down each night, it still appears to be daylight in the garage.
And I'm sure the neighboring parking garage isn't too helpful, right?
Not at all. That has been the single worst impact for at least local light pollution nearby out of basically anything else.
Our observatory has a parking garage right next to it, as you guys know, and that parking garage has a lot of lighting, and they built it a few years ago, so it's really been a noticeable change for us. There's a bunch of ways. I think the biggest problem with the lighting there is the glare that you get from the lights that travel directly into your eye. So if you just look over in that direction, there's these really bright LED lights. They're unshielded, and they shine straight into your eye, especially from the top floor of the garage. But there's also the effect that there's a lot of lighting, especially at the entranceways. There's a lot of lighting, and that just increases the general brightness in the area. And so there's light reflecting off all of the surfaces and more light reflecting down from above as well. And so that's washing out our objects even without the effect on your eye of the glare. So I think that's kind of both of those things are a problem, both the glare and the extra light. So the glare keeps your eyes from opening up, and the extra light makes it so that even if they were open, the objects in your telescope are washed out.
How many people would you estimate visit the observatory every year for weekly star parties?
For weekly star parties, probably a few thousand.
Have any visitors ever mentioned anything about excessive light pollution or that they wish the location was darker?
Yeah, everybody comes and wishes it was darker just because we can't see galaxies and nebulae like we can in darker places.
A sky quality meter, abbreviated SQM, is a device which measures the brightness of the night sky on a logarithmic scale ranging from 16 as the brightest to 22 as the darkest. Even on the darkest night in Salt Lake City, the observatory SQM battles the enormous amount of light pollution in the valley and records brightness comparable to that of the brightest full moon in a rural area.
Facilities management agreed to turn off the lights in the parking garage for 10 minutes. Yet, the SQM reading remained the same, implying a lack of impact. However, these results must be treated as a preliminary experience, as this short amount of time generated inconclusive data. For future experiments, it will be helpful to collect more than 10 minutes of data and also consider the light posts surrounding the garage. Even if the SQM data didn't change for us, the intensity and amount of lights still interferes with perception. One of the biggest impacts of the parking garage on the observatory is its negative impact on visitors' experiences. Intruding light prevents the eye from completely adjusting to darkness, inhibiting the visitor from better seeing the stars.
Are there any observatories in the country or the world that you think the University of Utah could emulate in regards to their urban location or potential lighting ordinances?
It's going to be hard, but places like Tucson have had lighting ordinances from kind of the onset of their expansions. So potentially doing something similar to them.
And do you know the details of their ordinances? Do they require shielding on lights? Do they require a certain color temperature?
Shielding is definitely one. Full cutoff fixtures, low Kelvin, and only as bright as you need.
The county created a really important legislation protecting the entire county. And so Flagstaff is one of the world leaders of protecting dark skies. I mean, if you talk to any dark skies person around the world, you say Flagstaff, they'll say, oh,
Yeah.
that's what we aspire to be.
In your professional opinion, how do you think the U or Salt Lake City in general could improve their light pollution?
Well, first of all, cutting back the light. A lot of places have way too many lights in the same area, so it's nearly daylight in those spots. So that's like some clustering problems.
The thing that I find really frustrating is that they put this like on the side away from the observatory. They put the kind of shielding up on the side of the garage that's kind of decorative, and on the side towards the observatory they don't have that. It's just open. And to me, like, that's the biggest thing, is if we could somehow either shield the lighting at the source of the fixtures, or have shielding on the kind of the windows, or I mean they're not windows, but just the open areas. That would really help a lot. Cut down the glare, you know. I think almost everyone who goes out to Dark Sky Place really is struck by how kind of awe and wonder that you get from that. And I think that kind of awe and wonder isn't a very common experience for people. I think it kind of helps you think of your place in the world and really puts things into perspective. In the U.S., almost no one has access to that on a regular basis. And so, I think, to me, protecting the dark skies areas that we have is a minimum thing that we should be trying to do.
By changing the lighting practices of the garage, the University of Utah will provide better experiences at its observatory, save money on their electricity bill, and reduce their ecological footprint. Other urban observatories have been able to preserve their night skies, and we can too. There are two different fates awaiting the South Physics Observatory. By shielding the lights in the northwest parking garage, we can provide a better experience for the thousands who come to see the night sky. Or, if we leave the structure as is with its light trespassing to the observatory rooftop, we will continue to be an example of improper lighting practices and how light pollution is taking away our access to the stars. The observatory and this room full of students are ready for change. But which will you choose? Will you help save our dark skies?